Saturday morning. This is Tammy Lowe, and I help Heather do the administration part of Estranged Parents group. And we both have been estranged from our kids and have gone through all the pain and things that you've gone through. Our situations are not exactly the same as yours. Everyone's situation's a little bit different, but there's all heartbreak involved in that. And so we're very familiar with that heartbreak, and we like to invite you into the group, and we like to invite you into discussions and things so that you can get to the other side as well. Because there is a better side, and there is a better life for you. And the reason I came on today is I heard a song on the radio just now. I'm not going to sing it for you. And it depends. You might have heard it and you might not, and that's okay. But it's called Perfectly Loved. Perfectly Loved was the song on the radio I just heard. And some of the lyrics are just amazing. And some of the lyrics that really spoke to me, and I just wanted to tell you and remind you, is that you're not a problem. You're not a mistake. You don't need fixing or healing. You're perfectly loved. Perfectly loved. You don't need fixing or healing. Oh. You don't need fixing or healing? Yeah, I think that was the lyric. Your heart will need some healing at some point. But you're not a problem. You're not a mistake. You are perfectly loved. You are perfectly loved. We've told you before, you're not alone. But you are perfectly loved. You are lovable. And you are loved. There are people out there that right now do not like you. So what? It's not. So what? You're a peach, and not everybody likes peaches. Okay? But you are not a problem, and you are not a mistake. I don't know how many times I have to say it. I just hope that you can understand what I'm saying, and then it can hit you right here. You're not a problem. You're not a mistake. You are perfectly loved. You are lovable. You are perfectly loved. You have worth and you have value, and you are perfectly loved. You were made for going through what you're going through right now, and you were made to go through it. Through it. You are not meant or made to be stuck. You're not meant to be stuck for a year. You're not meant to be stuck for 3 years, for 5 years, for 8 years, for 10 years. You're not meant to be stuck. And I'm going to give you some analogies that I was talking about this week. A couple analogies I think are pretty important, and you probably can relate to. If I tell you in your head, if I tell your head these analogies, you probably can relate to them. If you're in a car wreck and you break your leg, let's say you're in a car wreck, you're thrown from the car, you got a broken leg, and the bone is sticking out the skin. I doubt that you're going to be walking around with the bone sticking out your skin. You're going to look for help. I bet that when the ambulance crew gets to the scene, they're going to load you up into a stretcher. They're going to apply a brace or something to that bone so it's not moving around a lot. Right now it's sticking out, but maybe they're going to make it so it's not moving around. They're going to take you for medical treatment and get you fixed. That's one analogy I've got for you, is a broken bone. You're not going to be walking around on this broken bone, your femur bone sticking out. You're going to the grocery store. You're getting gas. You're picking up the kids. You're going to work. and you got this bone sticking out your skin. That's not acceptable. No one would accept that, right? No one. So maybe you didn't cause a car accident. Maybe you didn't cause yourself to be thrown out of a car. Maybe you didn't cause a broken bone. But the fact is, if you've got one, people take care of you, and or you go get medical attention. So that's one example I've got right there. If your heart is broken, there will be pain. Just like a broken bone would give you pain. And the thing is, we don't expect people, when they have issues that are physical, to not get treatment and not get some help that they need to heal. We think of those things as acute injuries, and we handle them accordingly. So when your heart is breaking, when your heart is broken, and you're in the shock and the disbelief and the grief that comes with it, we don't expect you to still be in the shock and the brokenness and the disbelief and the anguish and the grief 3 years later, 5 years later, 10 years later. When there's an acute phase of heartbreak, that's one thing. And we are here to get you through, not to get you through, but to assist you and support you in healing those wounds. Healing those wounds. Doing what you can do on your end only. Focusing on what each of us can do on our ends in our lives to heal those hearts. And there's going to be pain. You expect pain from a broken leg right at the time of injury. Some people go right into shock. Some people pass out from the pain. You expect that. You expect pain a week later. You expect pain a month later. At some point, as the bone hits and heals, it becomes stronger at that broken place, and you do not expect pain after an expected amount of time, right? For an acute illness like that, acute injury. And it's the same with your heart. Anyone who has been through severe grief and tragedy understands that in their head. They understand that in their head. So, for example, and then here's another example. If a loved one dies, a spouse, a partner, a child, if they die, you expect anguish, grief, shock, sadness, anger. You expect that in response to a severe heartbreak, a death, a tragedy. You expect that. And you expect that for quite a long time. A lot of people go numb, they go into shock. And that's our brain's way of protecting us from something that's overwhelming. So we expect shock and we expect numbness. And then we hopefully can grieve the person in a way that's healthy for us. We can process all this emotion that's in us. Maybe we've got unresolved stuff going on. Maybe we've got who knows what's going on. But we do not expect to stay in the grief stage for years and years and years and years and years. Now, somebody had mentioned this week that they have not even told anyone what they're going through. That the shame, they feel so much shame about it that they haven't told anyone what they're going through at all. But I want to tell you, there is no shame. There is no shame. There's shame on the child who cannot, this grown adult child that cannot seem to bear uncomfortableness. There's shame on the grown adult child that cannot seem to figure out how to communicate what's going on. There's where the shame is. The shame is not on the parent who Hold on a minute. I don't know if this guy knows. You got something dragging. Something's dragging back there. Okay. Anyway. So when we as parents are carrying shame or guilt about our child or the person we birthed, let's say, not in communication with us, that's false guilt and that's false shame, and that's not going to help you. When something, okay, all right, let's think of this. Let's think of this. I'm going to go here. This is a trigger alert. If you knew an adult who was assaulting children, let's say, and nobody talked about it, is that appropriate? Should we feel guilt and shame if an adult is harming children? I wouldn't. And if I found out that this was going on, I'll be darn straight. I would be telling somebody. I would be letting people know. I would talk to that person especially and say, knock it off. And I would go to authorities if necessary. I would protect people from somebody who's harming children, okay? So if we're on the receiving end of assault, neglect, bad behavior, and things like that, we don't have to carry shame and guilt. It's not our fault. You're not a problem, and you're not a mistake. You're not a problem, and you're not a mistake. You're having an experience right now where people in your life are doing things, you're having thoughts, and you're having some severe expressions about it. The non-communicative thing, that sometimes people think of that as a form of torture. That is not necessarily what our estranged kids are shooting for. That may not be their goal, but it might. We can have kids that grew up raised well and grew up without trauma, and they can morph into something that we don't recognize, that we don't understand, that we ourselves would never, or we think we would never do, or ways that we would never act. It can come from inside them. It can come from a significant other. It can come from a peer group. It can come from social media. Who knows where it's coming from? It doesn't necessarily matter the source of where it's coming from. It is the fact that they're changing how they behave with us, and they're changing how they relate to us, and we don't like it at all. We don't like it. We don't like it. Can we change it? Can we force them to change? Can we enlist people to help force them to change? Would we want to force anyone to do anything against their will? Is that love? If we were doing something that we believe firmly in, and those kids were like, you need to stop, or you need to change, or you need to think how I am, or you need to change how you say things, or how you think about something. And if they were on us to continually change, I don't know how happy we would be, okay? But you're not a problem, and you're not a mistake. You're going through something that you do not like. Many people would not like it, but you're going through something you would not like, you do not like. People are behaving in ways that you do not like. They're relating with you in ways that you do not like. But that doesn't mean that you're a problem, and it doesn't mean that you're a mistake. And it's funny because we could say, well, they said this to me, or they did that to me, or they acted this way, or they acted that way. But if you take the same words, the very same words that they say, if you were to write down something they said recently that bothered you, or in the past that bothered you, if you wrote it down, and then you said to yourself, wait a minute, if the lady at the supermarket said that to me, would I care? Or you know, I'm walking down the street and a stranger says these specific words to me, the dog is brown. It could be that simple. The dog is brown. If they said that to me, even if they use the same tone that our estranged kids did or do, would it bug us? Probably not. But it's because of the proximity that we thought we had to these people. So we think that they ought to say things a certain way, act a certain way, because of that relationship that we presumed that we had with them. But here's the thing. We birth them and they can't fend for themselves. We raise them as infants and they can't take care of themselves. We have to tell them, don't put your finger in the light socket, right? We have to try to advise them, don't do drugs, or don't get too drunk and drive, or be careful who you... I used to tell my kids, and it's probably not appropriate, but I used to tell them, be careful who you breed with. And it was in a half-joking way, because we all have really bad teeth. It runs in my family, on my mom's side of the family, really bad teeth. And so I had to put 2 of my sons in braces, and it was really expensive. So I was always like, check their teeth. Did they have to have braces? Just to, you know, and it was, again, it's half joking, but we've had to give them advice all their lives. Or we thought we did because we were parents, and that's what good parents do. You know, good parents don't let them put their fingers in the light sockets. Good parents don't let them, you know, do all kinds of different things. We think this is what good parents do. But here's the thing, we got to let them go at some point. We have to. We have to. And it sucks when they don't choose to have us in their lives for, and in the way that we want, or for the time period that we want. It sucks. It sucks if you try and call them and they don't answer. But then again, this generation, they don't answer their phones. A lot of times they don't answer their phones. We do, because we were raised in a different type of environment, a different generation. But they don't necessarily think so. So right now I'm driving, because my one son, there's a son that lives in Arkansas. He's far away. And there's a son that lives, he says, really far away. He says, we moved really far away, Mom. So I'm heading down to visit with that son, and probably do a brunch together. I tried to call him first, and of course I had to leave a message because he doesn't answer his phone. That's what they do. He's 26? Yeah, he's 26? I don't know. When I think of him, it's like the commercials where you see that little girl in the driver's seat, and she's got these little pigtails, and her dad's like, okay, you be careful. And she's like, okay, Dad, when she's actually really old. I always see my kids as very, very young, and they're just not anymore. Anyway, he didn't answer his phone. But he did send me a Facebook message to say, hey, do I have more time? Because I said I was heading down his way if you wanted to get some lunch or whatever. He's like, hey, do I have some time? Because I want to sleep a little more. I was like, okay, well, you know I live far away, and I'm on my way. And if you want to, you can. And if you don't want to, that's fine too. So I know it sucks when you can't have the relationship that you want with the child. And some people say, well, why do I have to call first? My mom never called first. She always showed up at my door. I hated it. So that made me do the opposite. And I tried to let people know if I'm coming over first, or even send them a text or something to say, hey, I'm on my way. I want to drop something off. But not necessarily, I don't necessarily do that with my kids. Sometimes I would just show up and I'm like, oh, remember what that felt like? You didn't like that. Remember when Mom did that? You didn't like that. So I'm trying to be respectful of them as adults and like not message or text early in the morning. I try to wait until they wake up because I know they're adults now. And they have preferences just like I do. I don't want them calling me or expecting me to answer the phone at 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night when I go to bed about 8:30, 8:45. They know this about me. And they're respectful of me when it comes to that. So I have to think about what it is that they want to. But I do want to tell you, again, you're not a problem and you're not a mistake. You're going through something. And when I bring up these examples, I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong at all. I'm just giving you experience of what's going on with me and some of my kids. I have a stepson that still will not talk to us at all. And it's been since 2020 Thanksgiving, I think, or 2021 Thanksgiving. I think it was that. It was Thanksgiving time, and they said, don't have people over, and we had like 10 people, and it was out in the garage, so they could come and go as they wanted to, and he disagreed with that, and so, and he had different views than we did about the vaccinations, so he chose to never talk to us again. And it sucks. It sucks more for my husband because it's his biological kid, but I don't like to see my husband upset about it either. With my daughter, she got married. Well, she didn't get married. She had a boyfriend who I did not know anything about, what was going on, because it's not my business. It was her business. I didn't ask what was going on. She didn't share what was going on, but it turned out that he really had some really strong opinions about a lot of things, and she ended up estranging from us around the time of the Black Lives Matter protests, and it was terrible. It was terrible. It was probably, I think we were estranged for about 1.5 years, and it sucked so bad because I thought we were close, and I guess I relied on that relationship, that close relationship, to show that I must be a good mom or something like that. So anyway, I am just sharing some things with you that I have learned through the years. I am at my destination, so I should probably let you go. But anyway, I heard that song on the radio. You're perfectly human. You're not a problem. You're not a mistake. And I wanted to share that with you this morning. So it's happy Saturday morning. If you want to share your story by video, you always can. You're welcome to. I love you guys. Tammy Lowe.